Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Of enlightenment, as you know, guys, this is my favorite part, at least in the beginning, which it is in the beginning, is to welcome our guests because I know they're coming with a couple of things I deem very expensive on this planet while we're here. Their time, 24 hours, has been given to every single one of us. Now, how you honor her, love her, respect her time is a beautiful companion. Once you've learned how to synergize her in your life and work with her, she will reward you, but she will also expose you. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful, powerful creator because it has created the individual that is before us. And we want to thank her for coming and sharing both of these precious commodity here with us at Threads of Enlightenment so that we can become better human spirits while we're here on this place that is known as Earth. Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment. It's an honor having you, Alejandra.
Thank you so much for having me, Ken. I appreciate your time as well.
It is an honor. Introduce yourself to the family, and welcome to the Threads of Enlightenment family, by the way. We are honored to have you here. So introduce yourself to the family. And as this question that I always ask is, how do you serve mankind? And give us that information, if you will.
Alrighty then. Let's start off strong. I love it. My name is Alejandra Brady, and I am a few things. I am a Feng Shui practitioner, I am an author, and I choose to serve mankind through your homes. So I can energetically come into your home, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person, and help you align the energy of your space so that it best serves you and works in your favor and helps you create the opportunities and the life that you're looking to lead. So that is how I like to serve. I have 20 years of interior design experience under my belt too. So I combine my modalities to work with clients to make their spaces beautiful because I need things to be beautiful in my world and also energetically aligned.
That is awesome. I love it. You spend most of your time in your home, guys, and Feng Shui is an ancient art that is utilized to change much based on the functionality of your house, where furniture is, where mirror is, what color the door is, all of that. And actually had studied a little of it, just dabbled here and there because my house as a single man, I made sure that my house was in that fashion. And when it comes to energy flow and stuff like that within your space, Feng Shui is the way to go. One of our customs here at Threads of Enlightenment is to jump into this time machine that I tell people that we love to revisit in a couple of spaces. And that time machine becomes accessible through our memory. There's a couple of spaces that we reside. I tell people we reside at these stations, if you will, or spaces. And each one of them, for a few years, each one of them have programmers. And these are the folks that are going to deposit data into you and I. The first space that we visit as a human when we come from the hospital is our home. We have mom and dad. Mom and dad are traumatized, whatever, however way they are. And they, through their trauma, see the world. They have their own relationships with others based on that relationship with each other. And then they brought you home, kissed you from the hospital in your nice little pink blanket, and they wrapped you and put you in this cage that is called a cradle. And we start in a cage. I love it. Anyway, now these folks are going to deposit data into you. What was your family unit like?
It's a very interesting question for me because I was adopted as an infant. So mine's a little bit more complicated. I was born to an unwed mother who was sent away to a home for unwed mothers. This is the 60s. So first and foremost, I'm very grateful that she had me, and brought me to fruition and realized that giving me up for adoption was a better way than to get rid of me by any other means, right? Or to try and keep me as a 17-year-old who would not have been able to provide for me. So I have a lot of gratitude for her in that respect. But I certainly was born with a lot of trauma because the person who had me obviously did not want to be having a child. Her family was ashamed because of religious background and everything else. And so there was shame, there was guilt, there was anger, there was abandonment, there was everything. My parents, who raised me, on the other hand, had been trying for many, many years to have children. My mother, the woman I call my mother, went through all sorts of horrible exploratory surgeries to try and get pregnant, never was able to. So my childhood was that of the little China doll. They were so happy to have me, but at the same time, they were so afraid of anything happening to me. So I look back, and my parents are both deceased now, the ones that raised me. And I look back at pictures, when I was cleaning out their home and going through all the photos, and I'm literally in like white gloves and a white dress and white shoes running around trying to play outside. I'm like, where are the barefoot photos with the hair going every which way and all of that? And there never really was that. It was very sheltered. I didn't learn to ride a bicycle until I was 51 years old. My husband taught me because he's like, you need to learn, because they were afraid I would get kidnapped if I rode a bike outside on the street. So that's a small snapshot into how I was raised. Yeah. However, they were incredibly amazing, loving human beings who gave me a great life. So I'm very grateful to both sets, right? Because it took all of them to get me to where I am today.
Yeah, we are a conglomerate of all of our
absolutely,
and our people, our ancestors and all the other things. And I try to educate people that trauma starts in the womb and even before that, because we know of ancestral trauma and all of these different trauma that follows the bloodline and all these different things. And when that fetus is in that womb, that is a form of energy. We are all energetic to a degree. And that fetus is collecting data based on the energies that is being around them. Mom, she's 17 years old, and all the traumatic conversation that is happening amongst her peers, family, and herself, and so forth. That fetus, that baby, the body is not developed, but the spirit and the soul is. And that spirit and soul is getting traumatized by all of that commotion, if you will, the disturbance that is outside. And so when that child is born, that child is already traumatized to a degree. And then you are born into this house, you are adopted into this home, and you receive, quote unquote, the white glove treatment. Now that in itself is also a traumatizing way to be brought up, because it is a fear-driven approach to rearing a child, if you will. So here you are, you're on this thing called Earth. You saw after mom and dad passed, and they have the photograph, and you began to see the white glove approach and so forth. Do you recollect at all, how did you handle yourself within this as a young individual in your teens? Maybe that's whatever, because I've talked to people and they've had earlier recollection than, some of them remember from 5 years, 6 years, and so forth. What was your earliest record, about your family and you and how you fit in that family?
Well, I'm the oldest. They also adopted another daughter, which is my sister, about 4 years after me. So I'm the oldest. A lot was demanded of me. I was to be a straight A student. I was to be the good girl. I was also put in a back brace at the age of 11 for scoliosis. So it's really interesting, now being on the other side of this and doing the work with all the healers and doing the inner child work that I didn't even know I needed, but I needed. It's just so interesting for me to start to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And that happened as I was writing the book. That's kind of what brought it all together for me and helped me understand what I'd gone through. But, I was the same size at 11 as I was at 18 when they took the brace off. And I just find that fascinating. I'm like, because that's stunting in a way, right? I mean, And nobody's fault. Everybody was doing the best they could. And I did end up with all the multiple fusions on my back and my neck anyway. And, you know, that's kind of when my life changed, when I was like, well, here I am for the first 50 years of my life. I grew up in such fear. Everything was fear, all these things that could happen to you. You could get hurt. You could do this. You could do that. You could get kidnapped, you know, and it happened anyway. I had all the surgeries anyway. So that's when I kind of threw it all out the window and went the other way and said, I'm not going to live in fear anymore. But I just remember always feeling a lot of expectation on me. However, I will say this, it's a two-sided sword, right? Because they had such high expectations of me, I did excel. I did get straight A's. I did make it into a major university. I graduated from the University of Notre Dame. I did meet my husband there. Like, I did do all the things the right way, according what was expected of me, right? So I did everything, you know, had the first boy in the family, you know, did the mom thing, did all of that. And so again, at 50s, when I just kind of said, screw all this, you know, it's like, I've done the right thing this whole way and I'm still sitting here with a, you know, a neck brace recovering from spinal fusion. Let's try a different way now. What feels good to me? But yeah, that's just what I recall is, it was expected. You know, it wasn't even a conversation like, will you please do the right thing? It was just expected for me to do the right thing. But again, that's the way my parents were raised.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's that generational trauma, right?
Yeah.
And it's familiarity, it's generational trauma. You know, my mom used to say, oh, you have no idea how strict my mom was with me. I'm super easy with you guys. And my sister and I were like, no, you're not. You know, I answered back one day and I came home and the door was gone from my bedroom. And I never had a bedroom door again. And as a Feng Shui practitioner now, I know that when you take the door away from a child's room, you're taking away their voice.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very serious thing. And of course, they didn't know that. I don't think they would have done it had they understood just how deep that would go. But, you know, that is how I was raised. I mean, you answer back, your door's gone. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, you're punished. Yeah.
We couldn't even try that.
Right.
In my culture.
I tried, I took away my son's cell phone back when he was like in middle school. He was around 11 and he did something and I just said, give me your phone, you know, because we didn't punish by taking away the doors or anything like that. But I just said, give me your phone. You're not going to have your phone for a couple of days. He goes, do you know what, Mom? It's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt me because you won't be able to communicate with me. And I know that that's what you want to do. And I'm like, oh, you little snot. That is so true. So kids are just so much smarter and know their boundaries much better than we did back in the day.
Yeah. I would tell people, I told my kids, I said, in my culture, I'm from British Guiana. I would say spanking or whatever we would call it would be more of an Olympic sport back there in my country. And we'd probably take the gold. Because if you misbehave, you got beat by your mom, your dad, the neighbor, the school teacher find out. Everyone, that whole culture was about respect and honor, especially for your elders and stuff like that. And if you talk back and all that type of crazy stuff, man, it's something you wouldn't even want to entertain because you just know you'll have a whole day of just being slaughtered by different people when they find out the news.
We did get spanked. Yeah, we did get spanked as small children, but we never got beat or anything like that. But I did go to school, Catholic school from kindergarten through graduation of college. So I was with nuns, especially in early years. And they did take out the paddle, you know, smack you on the top of your hand where it would hurt, either a ruler or a paddle. So they did do that, but that was the extent of it.
Oh, I can't even mention this stuff on here because you know they probably can't do that. But it was just a part of life. So here's this young woman who has been through much in the onset from early age in a restrictive position, if you will, with a cast, a neck brace, and all of these things for the back support. Mentally, how are you doing? Because that's major. That is major for restriction of any sort on anyone, and yet you have to quote unquote get up every day and move forward and continue life. What was she like in that?
So just to be clear, the brace that I wore as a child started under my breastbone, and it was just lower back. This cervical fusion came at 50 out of nowhere. So I was just confined from under my breastbone to my back to like halfway down my butt, basically. But it was still very restrictive, right? And it's the 80s and everyone's wearing really cute clothes, and I have to wear really big baggy clothes because they have to fit over the brace, even though I was teeny, teeny, tiny underneath it. So that in itself is not very good mentally, because you don't feel like you're like everyone else. And of course, all we want to be like as teenagers is to fit in. We don't want to stick out. You know, we want to fit in. It was not easy. I did not enjoy high school. I did not have a lot of friends in high school. I just didn't have a really easy time of it all. I wasn't very happy, I would say. I really wasn't. But I had no tools and I had no words to describe, you know, why I was feeling like this. I just knew that I wasn't quite like some of the other people around me. And I didn't understand. I always felt, and by the way, where I grew up is a wonderful city, and everyone was always, you know, for the most part, I'm not talking the teenagers, but in general, I was very much accepted there. And my parents were very well known in society and all of that. But I always felt like I didn't belong there. That's, I think, the biggest thing. I always knew, like, I'm not supposed to be here. I don't know why I'm here. Like in this place, like, I just don't understand why I'm here. And it wasn't until I went to college and was in a bigger pool of people that I started to feel like I fit in a little bit better. And maybe it's because I didn't stick out as much. Maybe it's because I could blend in more. You know?
So here you are, you're looking at heading into college as the expectation and the requirement as to the unwritten rules. You always have those unwritten rules, but you know what you have to do. When you're heading in that direction, what field of study did you pick and why did you pick it?
Well, this one's really funny. So I went in for business because I didn't really know. Actually, what I wanted to do was interior design, but they didn't offer it at the time there. There was no interior design degree. So my parents suggested business because they felt that, you know, business was a good one and you can kind of branch out any way you want. So I started and I did the first 2 years in business, and it just wasn't me, but I certainly had enough credits, you know, on the business end of things. So I switched to arts and letters and I concentrated on journalism. And I graduated with this combination degree of journalism and business. And I never used my journalism degree until 30 years later when I was writing the book. I'm like, oh, that's why I got it.
You know, like I tell people you never waste anything. People think that every job that you have, every menial job, every little thing that you do in your life, at some point, there will be a demand for it. And so I tell people, do not think that you have wasted your life, because I've heard so many people say, I'm wasting my life. And I'm like, no, you're not. Trust me. Everything that you have learned and is going through is a part of the requirements later on in life, but you will not know why. You're not going to see it now, but it will be, the answer will show up, and one day you'll go, oh my God, it makes sense.
That's why I did that. Yeah. Honestly, one of the best jobs that I ever had, I worked for The Gap for a very short period of time. And, you know, they taught me how to fold clothes. Honestly, it was just that simple. Like, I was folding clothes and selling clothes. And to this day, I can fold like nobody's business. And people come over to my house and they're like, can you teach me to do that? And I'm like, here you go. And they're like, where did you learn that? I'm like, that's all I have to say. And I'm like, and it was a life skill that I've used for the past, you know, 30 some years since I 40 some years since I worked there, you know. But yes, I agree. Even the simplest of jobs will teach you something. You will learn something from everything that you attempt to do in your life.
Everything. It does not matter. And so because of that, I tell people, learn to allow yourself some space to be okay. Don't use it to constantly berate yourself, because that's what we use it for in some cases. Whatever menial job we have, we'll begin to use that as a tool to whip ourselves. I'm no good, I'm this, I'm that. And I tell them, no, don't do that to yourself. Allow yourself the experience, to enjoy the experience, because you will be that skill set will be called upon later on in your life for you to access it, and you'll be amazed at that. So here you are, you went into college, and you mentioned earlier in the onset of the conversation that that's where you met your husband. So you were introduced to the man of your life, Mr. Dreamboat, and you got a chance to meet Mr. Dreamboat in your college, and you guys are talk to me about your Dreamboat, because I like to the audience. One lady asked me how come I've never asked anything like this, so I'm going to ask. When you meet Mr. Dreamboat, what was that circumstances like, and how did that manifest it, if you will?
It's actually really funny. So his roommate and my roommate are brother and sister, but we never crossed paths. From what I remember, my freshman year, he was a year ahead of me. However, we were all at Notre Dame is a huge football school. So we were all at the pre-football game tailgaters. And I turned around, and for some reason there was a Jeep, and it was a Laredo Jeep. It was that brand. So Jeeps have different names on it. This one said Laredo. I was raised in Laredo, Texas, so it caught my eye because you don't see that very often up there. And sitting on top of it was this guy with no shirt, no shoes, nothing but a pair of tiny shorts, again, we're the 80s, and a bandana wrapped around his thigh. And I looked at him and I go, who's that? That's how it happened. And my roommate said, oh, that's my roommate's brother, or my brother's roommate. And I said, well, who is he? And they told me he's Art Brady or whatever. And I just said, I like him. I want to meet him. Somebody went and told him. He went on to ignore me for 3 weeks, completely ignored me for the next 3 weeks. And he has now been chasing me for the past 38 years. So, that's how it happened.
They say payback and you know that.
I'll switch the 3 weeks for 38 years any day. So yes, we've been married for 34 years. Our son is almost 30. We dated through the rest of college, and then, again, did everything according to the way we were supposed to, right? We got engaged right after we graduated. Then we waited the 9 months to plan the wedding. Then we got married. And, then I moved to Tampa, which is where he'd already gotten a job after we got married. And we've been here.
Yeah, it's a part of the playbook. And the programmers have set it up this way. As we go to college. We were born, we go to church, wherever, and get that religious foundation. And then we branch into the educational system. We get our programming there as well. Then the expectation is once you come out of that system, you get your job, your degree, then you get your job, hopefully, first, but you guys did it the other way around. And
he got his job first.
Well, he got his job first. And then once you get your job first, then you meet your dream girl or dream man. And then you buy the house with a white picket fence. You have your 2.5 kids, and then you have that dog also. And then you die. You're gonna allow you get out. They allow you 2.5 week vacation per year, if you can afford it, and then you usher yourself out. And so that's the program that most of us try to abide by. And then one day, so here you are. You've done anything that they tell us that we should do, and you guys are, doing fine. You're obedient to the programming. But as you stated, all of us, even though we follow and we have achieved all of these things, I tell people, material things will never ever satisfy the human soul. It's impossible. It can't do it because he's not interested in that, and so he's interested in something else. Who am I? That type of stuff, the power. I'm here. What are my capabilities here? What can I do within this frame of this body? My limitation. How far can I push it? Where can I go? How can I move my mind? These things. These are the things that inner man is expected and wants an opportunity to do it. But we don't allow him to until that day. Talk to me about that.
That day for me was one of the first days that I began meditating. So I have to give you a little bit of background to get to that day. I got told I was 50 in September. In October, I got told that out of nowhere, I had to have cervical fusion. So I've got a big plate with 6 screws, cadaver bones, mesh, wire, the whole thing in my neck. And that was completely unexpected. My lower back had always been an issue. So I knew at some point that was going to happen. And I did have the fusions and all these other things that happened. And I just recovered from that when this happened. So I was like, are you kidding me? Like, at what point am I going to get a break here? And I hired a Feng Shui consultant to come to my house to help me get ready for the surgery, because I knew I was going to be in this neck brace and immobile basically for weeks on end. And I wanted my bedroom to be as comfortable as possible for my recovery. So
Let
she
me ask
came,
you a
she told
question
me,
right here.
yes, go right ahead.
Why did you go towards the Feng Shui? Why and how did you know? I'm sure you've heard about it, but talk to me as to your education of Feng Shui before you got there, because you had to be educated about it. What did you learn? Who did you learn it from? How did that manifest? And then after you grabbed that data, then you went and found the practitioner of it and you brought them into your space. What did those pre stuff look like before you brought that practitioner into your space?
So you're going to be surprised by my answer. I had no idea what Feng Shui was. I had no interest in it. I was doing the home of a client who is now a very dear friend of mine. But at that point, she was simply a client whose home I was designing. Because like I said, I've been in interior design for over 20 years. And she was much more energetically in tune than I was. And so when she knew that I was having the surgery, she said, I'm hiring a Feng Shui practitioner to come to my house. She said that she will not charge us travel time if she gets a second consultation. Do you want one? And something inside me just said, okay. So it was completely gut. It was not any preconceived notion. I had no idea of what she was going to tell me. And actually, within 10 minutes of the consultant being in my house, she looked at me and she said, you know, you're going to be doing this. And I can tell you exactly what I said to her. I looked at my clock and I said, TikTok, you're expensive. No, I have no interest in doing this. Just tell me what I need to do to get ready for surgery. Because I had been thrown such a loop in the fact that I had to go in for yet another spinal surgery. And what was this? You know what I mean? So I was only focused on that. So honestly, it had nothing. There was no buildup to this. I just said yes. And what I know now is that when you are open and ready for a change, and when the student is there, the master appears, right? This is how it works. So I was ready. I was ready. That's really what it comes down to, is I was ready to make a change in my life. So she came, she told me what to do. I did it. I had a great recovery. As I was recovering, my husband and I noticed such a difference in our own home that we started doing all the other rooms. And one of the rooms I did was this room that then started to want to meditate in. And I'd never had a meditation practice before either. So Feng Shui was kind of like my gateway to all things spiritual. So one day during meditation, it happened. What happened? I very sincerely sat there in my little neck brace and was like, all right, let's try this meditation thing. Let's do this. And my question was, what is my purpose? So I get it. I've been a mom. My son is grown, has graduated from college, moved to Chicago to start his first job. I've put my business on pause because I'm recovering from this surgery. My husband's great. I'm great. That's all good. But what is my purpose on this planet at this time? I really asked, I sincerely asked that question. And I am highly clairaudient. I didn't know what that word was at the time, but I learned later. And a voice came and told me, you're going to write a book. And I said, no, thank you. Just like I told the Feng Shui practitioner, no, thank you. I said, no, thank you. I have no interest in doing that. What else you got for me? Any other purpose? And the voice went silent. So 5 days in a row, I asked 5 days in a row, I got told the same thing. And so finally on the 5th day, I go, what am I supposed to write a book about? Who am I to write a book? I have no interest in any of this. And I got told to just write down what was happening to me. And I said, all right, but it's kind of boring, very average life, doing everything I was supposed to do all the way along. And I started writing. And as I started writing, all the crazy stuff started happening and the whole spiritual journey started unfolding. And I went to work with healers. I had these opportunities. and they helped me understand what was happening. And that's kind of what has led to where I am now. You know, it was a sincere asking of what my purpose was on this planet at this time, because I just didn't know. I was in such a transitional place. And I knew that just doing the design wasn't enough. Like, doing interior design was wonderful, but I wasn't finding it fulfilling at all. So I did call the Feng Shui practitioner back. I asked if she knew of a certification program. She actually had one. Unbeknownst to me, when she came to my house, she is world renowned. Her book is in 9 different languages. I didn't know any of this. She was just somebody that my friend brought over to my house and was going to tell me how to make it more comfortable for me. So I closed everything down and studied under her until I got certified. And that kind of gave me a renewed purpose in how to work with people, because I like working with people through their home. I have mediumship capabilities. It is one of my gifts. I have oracle capabilities as well. I am clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. But I like using my gift through people's homes, because people's homes are such an important part of our lives. And I don't think enough people realize it. So that is how I choose to serve and how I use it. But that's how it happened.
That's a beautiful imagery and beautiful story as you relate it to us. My advice to people, and I tell them all the time, life is a series of decisions made, and then the consequences of those decisions. It's life. One must, and I tell people all this, because I've learned much going through, I think, as a student, and I love to learn, reading and as in having these wonderful conversations and so forth. I learned that there are 2 parts of us that make decisions. We have the what people call, your natural mind, or just your natural brain. Then there's the subconscious individual, that soul of the individual, of the man and the woman. When that individual makes a decision, a conscious decision that is made, I believe that decision will be manifested. Why? Because it is you, the pure stuff, just made a decision made. And that decision, in my mind, in my understanding, is a demand on energy. And it is amazing how those energies will begin to come into your space to get what you have just decided to manifest. Those energies are called people, and you will see them come into your space, and they're there because you made a demand. Because when you surrendered and you said, yeah, that thing right there came from someplace else that was ready for this new change. And then it pulled everyone in to get that desired outcome to manifest. And so be very mindful, people, of your decision, because life, as I said, it is a series of decisions and the consequences of those decisions. So be mindful of those decisions that you're making. It is very powerful stuff. So here you are. You've done it. You have that day. You brought in one of the most powerful tools into your life. One of the other questions you have to ask yourself in this life while we're here is, who am I? Who am I apart from my husband, my kids, my job, my friends? Who am I? And as you began to make that demand, when you're in your meditation, one of the best place to be, your purpose begins to manifest. That stuff, man, when you said, what is my purpose? Your inside, your soul was waiting for that opportunity to go to start showing you some of that stuff and bringing it out, because that is a powerful question. Your purpose will always make you purposeful. So here you are, you were guided. That is Feng Shui. And I have a story for you after the interview. I'll tell you, you're going to laugh.
Sure.
And so Feng Shui, as I said, is an ancient art that has been passed down for generations. So now you saw the result of it manifested in your house. Both you and your husband saw literal results as it is being happened energetically in your house. When you began to see that and observe those things, what began to happen to you as an individual when you saw it actually working? Because I tell people, you are your first client in everything that you do. So you are your first client and you're seeing this. What was your reaction?
Well, the first thing that happened was I had a very seamless recovery from the fusion, right? That was step one, because I had an energetically aligned bedroom, because that's all I had time to work on before I had to go into surgery. My surgery was pretty immediate. It wasn't emergency surgery, but my surgeon was kind of like, get your stuff in order and I'll see you in like 2 weeks. So I didn't have a lot of time to do much else. So it was all about getting things ready for that. And then, yes, as we did the house, both my husband and I just felt such a shift in our relationship, a shift in the energy. It just felt lighter and brighter and better. And things were flowing easier, got rid of a lot of stuff. And I am somebody who's super neat just by nature and probably my upbringing, I mean, I'm almost OCD, like everything's in little containers and boxes and all of that. I was surprised at how much I could still let go of. And my teacher explained it so beautifully one day. She's like, if your hands are completely full of stuff and I'm trying to hand you over what you want most in this world, how can you take it if there's no room to receive it? So it was all about making more room in our physical space to invite, more prosperity, more abundance. And abundance, when I say prosperity and abundance, they're two very different things. Prosperity equals like financial prosperity. Abundance is more of all good things in life, right? More time, more love, more time with family, whatever it is that those two mean to you, So it just was about making room for new things to happen to us and for new things to come in, all good things. And of course, I only work in the light. I'm very intentional about that. I always say, only in of the light and in everyone's highest and greatest good. I say that before I get on any interview as well, too. Please channel through me what this audience needs to hear and keep it only in of the light and in everyone's highest and greatest good, because I think that that's very important to always be setting those intentions. And the other thing is, Feng Shui is not transactional. If I put an orchid in this corner, that doesn't mean I get money the next day. It is simply about aligning the energies in your space to allow for opportunities to come into your life. So what happened was opportunities started coming into our life, much more so than they ever had before. One of them was, I heard in the middle of the night the word Sedona. And I had no idea what Sedona was or where Sedona was. And I woke up the next day and I asked my husband, what's Sedona? He goes, I think it's in Arizona somewhere. Within 24 hours, 3 different people came up to me and said, hi. One woman I hadn't seen in 10 years and just walked up to me on the street. Hi, Alejandra, how are you? Nice to see you. Have you been to Sedona? Literally, this is hours after I got up and said that. And by the time it happened the third time, I'm like, okay, I think we need to look into this. By the time we talked about it, which was in the next few days, went to see our son and talked to him about it, to the time we owned a home there was 10 days. Wow. And that's just how fast things started manifesting for us when I listened, versus saying, no, the book took me 3 years because I just was really fighting it tooth and nail. I did not want to go through it. And I didn't even know how, but then again, as I surrendered, as you say, which I use that word a lot, as I surrendered to the process, the right people came in to help me create it. Yeah. And to help me make it what it is now, which is an award-winning bestseller. I would have never thought that, So yes, you have to surrender first and then let go. I think it's very important to release what no longer serves you, whether it's in your surroundings or your brain or any other way that it's holding you back, and then see what unfolds. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, whether it's friends, whether it's food, whatever it is, guys, let it go. And
whatever your patterns are.
Yeah, I use this example because the pendulum swinging, and I was in the church, and I grew up in the church, and I remember Jesus being in this garden praying one day, and he's having this discussion with his father because apparently his father wants him to go die on this cross, and Jesus is in this garden, and he's having a conversation. He's like, yo, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about this. But it wasn't about the cross. It was about his relationship with his father. He had never been apart from his father. According to the biblical teaching, he had never been apart. And so he knew that he had to be apart from his father. And so he's in this garden arguing with him, having discussions so intense. The Bible said that he was sweating blood.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of all of this negotiation, if you will, that he had with his dad, he says, okay, I surrender. Everyone has to come to that space of surrendering in order to move to the next level of your assignment. I tell people that all of us, we didn't come to this planet to work in a job and then die. We came here with an assignment to fulfill. And if you did not and haven't found your assignment, you need to go find it. And so here you, in the same sense, you came to that place of surrendering. And once you surrender, because we go through all these things, as you said, that imposter syndrome, who am I, all of those other things that we deal with. And again, you had a fair base foundation that you had to learn how to manage. And I'm sure some of that was seeping in back and forth that one has to dance with until one says, okay, enough, I surrender, and let's just do it. So once you surrendered, but let me go back a little before that, because you have clients, you're now aware of how Feng Shui starts to affect one's home. You've had you're your first client, you witness it, you and your husband and your family. It is something that you're familiar with. And so now I am sure, since you're an interior designer and that person calls you, that you are now going to start implementing. Let me tell you some stuff and let me do this to your house. And you see, when you began to do that, what type of response did you begin to receive from your other clients? Because as I said in the onset, that you were your first, your second and your third clients. What were those response that you were getting back from them as a result of you practicing this art within your business?
So two different things happened. One, I changed my business model. I no longer had any interest. Once I got certified, I no longer had any interest in working with clients who did not want to work energetically on their house as well, because it's kind of like, once you see something, you can't unsee it. So once I put those Feng Shui goggles on, everything I see goes through the Feng Shui goggle filter now. And I can't unsee it. So when my clients found out that I was coming back after my recovery and after studying and all that, several of them who I had been working with in the past up to the surgery reached back out, and I explained to them how I was doing things. And I actually was shocked. A lot of them said, oh no, I have no interest in that whatsoever. So a lot of them, I just had to say, okay, well then I'm no longer the person for you, because I'm not going to work on this without having your home being energetically aligned. And I just had to almost start over and attract clients, and manifest clients who did want to work on their home. I just don't have any interest in working with people who just want it to look pretty. I can make it look pretty in my sleep. Anybody who's been doing anything for any length of time, you should be pretty good at it, right? I mean, so I can make it, but that doesn't fulfill my purpose.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to then I'm just not the right person. And that's okay too.
That's okay.
Because I do believe, and what I've come to find out is, I thought, when I was first studying this, I needed to write papers and I needed to do assignments. So I reached out to a lot of my friends and I said, hey, no charge. Can I come do this one assignment at your house for you free of charge, because I need to write a paper on it? And they're like, oh no, I don't believe in that. I'm like, okay. I very naively assumed that everybody would be so excited about doing this to their homes, right? And it was a giant shock to me, I guess is the right word. Slap in the face sometimes is what it felt like, but truly just a shock and a realization that everyone's not into this and everyone doesn't want to talk about it. And half of them think I'm doing witchcraft. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with witchcraft. It's just energetically aligning your home. And you can't help those that don't want to be helped. And I think that's been the biggest challenge for me, because my nature is very giving and I want to help everybody. I have friends with homes for sale right now that I can see it. I can see like so many things that they can do differently. And this is why the house is not selling, but they're not asking for my opinion. So I have to keep it to myself. And that is part of our challenge here too, right? Because we naturally want to serve and we want to help everybody. But at least in my situation, I've had to learn to temper that a little bit and wait to be asked, because it just means to me those people are not ready yet, right? We have to be ready. And if someone's not ready, you can't do much. But the first few clients that were ready that I got to work with, incredible changes. Absolutely incredible changes. And some of them are still clients now, 5-6 years later. I just keep going back and they call me for another project and another project and another project and have me go do their businesses because their house felt so good. So let's go work on the business and help our employees. So it's been very rewarding. It's been very fulfilling to my clients' lives as well. And that's what makes it worth it. That's why I get up in the morning, because I truly do love what I do. It really is just such a special combination of things.
Yeah, when you find your purpose, as I said, you become purposeful, but your purpose also energizes you. You can do 24, 29 hours a day if there was 29 hours in a day. And people will look at you and go, wow, why? How come aren't you not tired? And you're looking at them going, I don't understand what you're talking about. Because it empowers you and there's energy there. For someone that does not belong there, it will sap their strength, because they don't belong there. And one of the things you're talking about is about some of your friends, because of, again, I grew up in the church and Jesus said, there's a verse that says he could not do any miracle there because of their unbelief. Here's this guy who his assignment was to heal sick and cast out, and he was doing it all over the place.
Right.
And then he goes to a couple of places and a couple of people, and it says he couldn't do anything there because of their unbelief, and he left. So those are the things you're going to run into with your friends and clients. You will not be able to do anything there because of their unbelief. It's the same thing. It translates in a different industry, but it's the same principle. And so one must be open, period. And it's a shame that you have those folks that are closed, but there is a reward for that, and there's a reward for being open as well. So here you surrendered, you're learning the ins and outs, the nuances as to who to recognize as one that you can work with and one that you move on. As you surrendered and you produced the book, you gave birth to the book after 3 years. How was that delivery?
It was actually very almost non-existent, I have to say. Only because so many other things were happening at the same time. But I think we're in a different place with her now. So she's been around 2 years. My book's been around 2 years. The day that she was born, meaning the day she went live on Amazon, the next day our son called us and said he was going to get engaged. So we immediately hopped in the car, went to Hilton Head where he was going to get engaged, and spent the whole week there celebrating them. So I had to tell my publisher, it's like, we're not doing anything for the book right now, because this is more important. And I just want to be in a cocoon with my son and his now wife. And then we came home from that and we moved into a new house. And then there was a wedding to plan. So it's been all this other stuff that's been happening in life. And finally, he got married on 11/11 of last year, 23. And finally, I just said, it's time to now pay attention to her. She's a little toddler. She's 2 now, but it's okay. Now we can get out there. So now is when I'm finally getting around to it. However, that doesn't mean that things haven't happened in the last 2 years. I have had people from all over the world reach out to me and tell me that it helped them so much and it changed their life, because it is about my spiritual journey and it is about what I went through. And it is funny and sad and everything in between, because for a lot of us who are going through these journeys, a lot of the times you feel alone. A lot of the times you feel crazy. A lot of the times these things are happening and people around you are falling away. You're going to lose some family. You're going to lose some friends. And I wanted people to understand to not allow those things to keep them from moving forward with their journey, because we do need everybody who's here to shed light on the world. And the only way that I know to help other people get through that is, by sharing my story with them. The Feng Shui is one way, obviously, because I'm in your house and I'm helping you. Just to help people move forward, and my husband, who is my greatest supporter, I did my very first past life regression and came home, and it was all about using my voice. My voice got taken away as a child when they took the door away, right? Then there's a plate here. There's literally a blockage on my throat chakra, and I did this past life regression, and the entire point of the entire thing was for me to use my voice and share my story. And I came home and told my husband about the experience. And the first thing he said to me is, "You're not going to tell anybody about this, right? They're going to think you're crazy." And it's like, so even the most well-meaning people around you, for you. And this was years ago, this is probably 5 years ago when this experience happened. But that's what you face when you're going through a spiritual journey and you're finding your purpose in life. People are going to not know how to handle you and how to deal with you and deal with this new version of you, probably the most authentic version of you, right? But this new version to a lot of people, because you're not just the PTA mom, the soccer mom, the, whatever. And, you're this more powerful person because you are standing in your power and your authenticity. And that scares people. So when you start being that person, people don't know how to respond. And a lot of times they'll fall off, and that's okay. Because new people who are much more energetically aligned will find you, and you will have a tribe again. And I think that's super important for people to know.
Yeah, it's designed to shake those loose. And it's okay not to, to learn how to let things go.
And some are harder to shake than others, and that's fair. And I've had family members I've had to shake, unfortunately. But, if you're going to call me of the devil and evil for having these beautiful gifts that I share with people, well, then we're no longer energetically aligned. I'm sorry.
Yeah, again, as I mentioned, you have the religious part, certain religion that also programs people. And it goes back to the same principle, because of their own belief, you can't do anything there. So you guys have been listening to us for a little while now. And we have this powerhouse of an individual that has been educating you and I about the journey, purpose, and learning how to apply an ancient art into our home that can assist with certain energetic flow within the home. I was a young man that got my hand on a Feng Shui book, and drank it up. And I began to organize and set up my apartment, my bedroom, everything in that fashion. And honestly can say that energy flow shifted, certain mindset, everything began to change in one's life. This is an ancient art, hundreds, thousands of years old.
Thousands.
And so I want to invite you to get into her space. I'm going to provide her stuff, all of the links, guys, because it's very important, especially her book. You know how I feel about books. Books house power. Those words are powerful, but one must come ready. As you come to the book, come open-minded, number one, come expecting, number two. You must create a space by which you are going to be in a space to receive. When we are quiet, when we're in the zone, as they say, there are certain things that are happening to us on a micro level, where we are putting our mind in a theta state, it is called, because I studied sound wave and electronics and stuff like that. That theta state is one where you receive data. And now those words will jump from those pages. And I tell people, when you have a book from an author, you are having a one-on-one conversation. You're actually having a private conversation with that individual. And it's really cheap. It's not that expensive. And so you get the book, you give it to your friends, you just give it to them as presents and gifts and all these things, because it is one-on-one. And tell them to get ready, prepare themselves. And when you read those books, those words have the capability of jumping into your inner being and changing your life forever. I dare you guys to do what I say. And you'll see, especially Feng Shui. Feng Shui is going to it's like a gateway to the spiritual realm, one of them, because once you become aware of it and its capability in your life, you will become more open to all of the other things, to begin to investigate, who am I? What is my purpose? And so here you are, you've gotten the book, you have Now you're focused on the book. It is a bestseller. Everyone is getting it. You are getting your calls and all of these different things. And you are in your space, in your assignment. Being here, because I tell people I can sense as an individual who is aware of things, I can sense a great change. As they say, the great song, a change is coming. What do you sense in your spirit as to the change that is coming, and where are you being led to? Because I tell people, when one is awake, we are constantly being led. The gift, at some point, we use the gift, but then there's a transition when the gifts begin to our gift begins to use us, and that's when stuff starts to happen in a different way. Talk to us now as to this disturbance, because I could sense it from my conversation with you. We all have this little disturbance. What is that disturbance about, and where is it taking you?
So, in all honesty, I know I probably come across very comfortable here, but as early as 2020, when I started trying to do a few Instagram videos, I am very uncomfortable speaking in public and speaking to people. And that's been a big surrender for me, to let that go and be able to communicate with others and share my story, because that is how I'm supposed to be. So what I see coming, what I feel is coming, is this on a much bigger scale. And again, it scares the crap out of me to even go bigger and be speaking in front of bigger audiences and perhaps a television show. There is some conversation. We will see where it goes. Again, I have surrendered. I have said, yes, if this is how you want to use me to get to bigger platforms and help more people on a bigger scale, I will do it. I will do it about 95% willingly, because again, it's not really what not really what I would, I'd be just as happy, sitting in my little meditation room upstairs. But I was told by one healer that I communicate like this for a reason. I look like this for a reason. I speak multiple languages for a reason. And all of that is because I am here to reach a very wide audience in this world before my time, on this earthly plane is up. So we will see. I feel that what's next is another uncomfortable expansion for me.
It's always an expansion.
I'm just going to have embrace it and count on my spirit guides. I always feel a team behind me, and I just always ask them to be with me and help me have the right words, to get the message that it's really not even, it's my story because it's my physical body that has gone through this story. Right. But I just say, channel through me what this audience needs to hear, what's going to be in their best interest. So I just always ask them to work through me as a vessel to reach the people I'm supposed to reach and how I'm supposed to reach them. And, this book was never intended to be for everybody, because I think if something is for everybody, it's for nobody. It is for those people who are ready and who want to grow and who want to undertake a spiritual journey, or who are in the middle of it and don't know what the hell's going on in their world and they feel like they're spinning. That's who it's for. And that's who I'm here to help reach and to help hopefully make their journey a little bit better. So that's what I think is coming. I think I've got another really big expansion that I'm going to have to just, get ready for.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I usually don't say things to people. I'll try to hold my peace. But in this case, no, I'm not going to hold my peace, Alejandra. No. Buckle up.
Go for it. I know.
Buckle up, girl. Buckle up. So I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your precious time here with us at Threads of Enlightenment. Guys, we're going to provide everything for you to get to her, because it's important. If you are in a space where you are looking for change, give it a shot. I want you guys to give it a shot, because this life is about change. My mom used to say to me, and I remember she would say to me, and I'd listen to her and just shake my head. As I grew older, I understood the value of what she said. Change is not change until you change. I could see her face as she's telling me that she's passed, but I could see it. And she grabbed me and said, son, change is not change until you change. And then I learned the secret of that. You change when your subconscious man makes a decision to change. Get in touch with your subconscious man, who you are, and change. Get her book. Make that change. Get some data, some information so that you can get some insight and begin to move one step at a time. And I promise you, with that in mind, one step at a time, you will end up somewhere. Trust your inner being. He has the answer. Allow yourself to learn how to surrender. You heard us talking about it. It is a powerful place to be. So I want to thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment and sharing your wonderful, powerful journey with us here. And I look forward to continuing chatting with you and maybe even see you on my TV one day.
I would love that. Thank you, Ken, for having me. I really appreciate it. And it was a great conversation.
It was an honor. And I thank you so much for sharing you with us here at Threads of Enlightenment. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.